Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey 2 is a 2024 independent British horror movie, directed by Rhys Frank Waterfield and written by Matt Leslie. It's the second installment in the Twisted Childhood universe, and a sequel to Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey from 2023. It stars Scott Chambers, Talia Evans, and Ryan Oliva. Not wanting to live in the shadows any longer, Winnie-the-Pooh, Piglet, Owl, and Tigger take their fight to the town of Ashtown, leaving a bloody trail of death and mayhem in their wake. So I just got back from seeing Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey 2 in theaters, and it's only on a 3-day run, at least for now. It's a phantom event, so you gotta spend quite a bit of money to go see it. In my case, it was $5 more than what I normally pay to see a movie at, but it's fine. I don't mind supporting independent films, even if they're not the greatest. So I was not a big fan at all of the first one. I came down on it pretty hard, but I did say that I thought it was well done, as in technically well done. I thought that you could see the skill of people involved. The acting wasn't too bad. I really thought with the budget they had, the way it was shot, the way it was edited, just the overall look and feel was pretty good. But where it really just did not work for me, even a little bit, was the tone. It is just a depressing movie. It's not fun in any way. And it makes no sense to me when we're talking about a Winnie the Pooh spoof type of situation where you're taking this beloved childhood character and making it into a horror figure. You'd think that it would be a given that you're going to make it fun. You're going to make it campy. There's going to be some silliness. There's going to be maybe a little bit of levity of some kind in it. I'm not saying it needed to go silly with it, but there should have been some form of lightheartedness about it. And so that's what really knocked that first film for me. And sadly, it's exactly the same with the sequel. It's exactly the same problem I have with it. Yes, this movie looks a lot better. You can see that the money they had, that they spent it on making this. That first one made a lot of money. It made like $4 million on just like $100,000 budget or something. Like, it's pretty crazy numbers. And you could see that they put it into this sequel, and I commend them for that. On top of that, they hired a legit writer who I have enjoyed movies that he wrote before. Summer of '84 I thought was really, really good. And so I was kind of not exactly high hopes going into this, but I did hope that at least the story and the way it was written would be better. The big thing I was hoping for, though, is that it would be fun and it wouldn't just be mean and uncomfortable the whole time, because not uncomfortable in a good horror way, but uncomfortable as in you're sitting there going, do these guys know what movie they're making? I mean, even before the movie starts, the director, the writer, you know, the main guys, the main actor, the main people involved in this, they come on, you know, like a lot of movies do these days, to say thank you coming to their movie and whatnot. But then as they're talking, they start talking about movies that inspire them, and they mention Hereditary, and they talk about how they were really inspired by Black Phone and a number of other movies that I'm like sitting there going, what are you guys talking about? Like, I know that first movie sure didn't feel like those, but I'm like, well, maybe this movie is going to surprise me. Maybe, you know, it's going to be different. But inside my head, I'm thinking, guys, it's a Winnie the Pooh universe that you're talking about. You know, you've made this nursery rhyme, children's stories kind of universe. If you're not aware, they've made this whole entire universe kind of like the MCU, where it's all these Disney characters, different childhood characters, Peter Pan, Bambi, I mean, a whole bunch of different ones. And I just don't get it. I'm like, if you're doing that, why is it you're thinking of these serious, really dark kind of horror movies? I don't get it. I don't see how those two things go together at all. And watching this movie, it felt like oil and water the entire time, because every time there's a moment that feels a little bit campy and a little bit like, okay, I'm gonna start having fun with this a little bit, then it goes to this overly long, bloated, just depressing, like borderline depressing, dramatic scene that works if you're making an art house film, you're making a slow burn horror movie. Scenes like that, they make sense, they work, because that's the pacing, that's the tone, that's the kind of movie you're making. But when you go from that and then juxtapose with these guys running around, and granted, their masks look way better, but they're still obviously mask. You know, their prosthetic mask, like they do look better, but they're mask, you know? And it's like, how can I look at that and they're literally ripping limbs off, ripping people's heads off, like super gory, and that would be fun. And then it's immediately this long drawn out scene again where Christopher Robin is in his feels and talking about this traumatic events and all these things, and he's in tears. And I gotta say, Scott Chambers, the guy that plays Christopher Robin, because they switched up actors in this, I thought he did a really good job, and honestly, too good of a job for this. You know, I mean, that's kind of the problem. Like, he acted his ass off. You could tell that he did what he was asked to do and went all in and gave this very dramatic performance. And he's very likable and charismatic and just has this happy kind of face. But when he's sad and when he's down, you can even feel it even more because he has this happy kind of face. But it just had me scratching my head the whole time, because every time it would ramp up and get gory and start to get, you know, silly and kind of like what you're expecting. It never even got to the silly line, but like started ramping things up and maybe was going to get campy with it. They would do something that was just mean and cruel and joyless. Like, that's what I said about the first one. And that's what I felt again tonight in watching this sequel. It's joyless. There's just no joy in this film. And I don't understand. Like, how can you make a Winnie-the-Pooh movie, a movie about fucking Winnie-the-Pooh, and not throw in any silly kind of elements? Like, how are you not drowning someone in honey? Like, how are you not self-aware that what you're making is this spoof type of thing? And it's really a bummer to me, because I can see potential in everybody involved in this movie. I can tell that these people are talented, and I would love to see what they would do with an independent, original, you know, non-IP horror movie. I think they could do something interesting. But when you go and you do this IP of a Winnie-the-Pooh, the tone is off. Like, that, you can't do both. You either need to lean into what it is, you know, and have fun with it, or not do Winnie-the-Pooh, in my opinion, at all, and not do any of these childhood kind of characters, because everybody is going to be expecting something silly and fun, and it's what it should be, and do something totally different and serious. But at the same time, I get it, because that's where the money's at. Because when you're an independent filmmaker, the struggle is constantly to find a way to come up with money to make your film. And here you go. You got this IP that is where you're getting money. And it's like, if they weren't doing the Winnie-the-Pooh IP, no one would go see these movies. So it's this catch-22. So I get where they're coming from. I get why they're doing it. But I just, like, if they're listening, guys, I could see the skill you have. I could see that you have passion for filmmaking. I'm not at all trying to talk shit by any means. It's just, I don't get the tone of it. I don't understand. Like, you guys, if you're going to keep making these, why can't you lean into the humor of it? Why can't you relax a little bit and be self-aware and know that you're not making these super serious kind of movies? It just makes no sense, because it's like they never really commit either. It's serious, but it's never quite so serious. So it's, and maybe that's just because you're talking about a Winnie-the-Pooh situation, but just in general, it's like it never really commits to what it is. It just felt very confused, very off, and I just couldn't get engaged with it. And that's the honest truth, because I never had an issue with the quality. I watch a lot of independent movies all the time, so I had no problem with the quality of that first movie. I had no problem with, you know, the level of acting, the way it looked, the editing, none of that technical stuff. I had no problem with it. I know a lot of people may have talked shit about that and said this or that about that as being the problem, but that wasn't my issue. That was not even close to what I had issue with. I just had issue with it not being a happy movie, not being a fun movie, being so serious, so, you know, non-self-aware, and just a miserable time. It just was joyless, and you can't do that when you're talking about this type of situation here. I mean, it's a gimmick. That's the whole idea behind this, it's a gimmick. It's Winnie-the-Pooh going around killing people, and it's not even just some guy in a mask. And that is something that I could almost take even more serious. If you were to just have this slasher guy like Michael or Freddy or whatever, and he was wearing a mask, so he's just a regular guy, but he's a serial killer wearing the mask, then I could almost get on board with it being, super serious, and mean and vicious and dark and gritty and all that. But it's not. It's supposed to be this like weird science experiment gone wrong who turned this boy into a bear or some complicated thing like that, without completely spoiling what this story's about. And it's just like, guys, like, oh my God, like, I was just so bored of it. It was so hard to get engaged with it because it just felt off. It never felt like it was something that I could just, hang on to. And it's disappointing because I had heard that it was, light years better. I'd heard by some people saying it's way, way, way better. And technically speaking, maybe, technically, yeah, it's a lot better. There's a lot of set design, costume design, acting. They really did do a much better job with all of that. But I never thought the first one was that bad in that department in the first place. I was fine with that level of it. And just like in the first one, there were some cool things. There's this one scene where there's like a kill scene where a bunch of people start getting killed and stuff, and there's all these black lights. It's like at this party kind of situation, and it looks really cool. It's a great idea. There's a lot of things like that, like I said, you can see that these guys have passion for making film. They have great ideas. Like, there are some very cool ideas. I just honestly think my only real problem with this is just that it doesn't know what it is. It doesn't commit fully. It's this weird situation where it's like these guys are wanting to make these real, respected, gritty horror movies that put them into the pantheon of these other horror filmmakers that they inspire to be and that they look up to. They even talked about it in the opening before the movie, like I said. But yet they're making this IP, this Winnie-the-Pooh thing, and like it's just like so frustrating because they're making this entire universe now, and I'm like, guys, like, they're so young, but I wish they would just maybe make a couple of them, take that money you make, and then start making original IP, make your own universe, make your own things, because that's how you're going to get respected in the, film industry, and especially in the horror industry. Because as long as you just keep doing these, then you're just going to be seen as these gimmick filmmakers. And that's hard for me to say, because like I said, I can see the passion. I root for filmmakers. I root for independent film. I am all about that. I want you guys to be successful. And I'm not even at all saying to not go see this, because even with the first one, as much as a lot of people did shit on that movie, a lot of people enjoyed it. And I know there's going to be a lot that enjoy this one more than the first one, probably. If you enjoy gore, you're probably going to dig it. There's some great practical gore throughout this whole movie. You're probably going to enjoy all that. I like to have some fun in my horror movies. When they're a miserable time and mean-spirited, it just takes me away from a movie unless it's a serious type of thing, and that's what you're there for, this like slow burn, art house, dark and kind of disturbing movie. If that's what you're doing, then, it's like a reprogramming of my brain. It's like, okay, that's what I'm there for, and that's the way I'm going to go with it. It's just like if you were to make a movie like that and then all of a sudden throw these weird, silly things in there, it wouldn't fit either. I don't know. I've heard this from a lot of people about the first one. I'm not alone on this. Most critics, I'm not even a critic, but most people that talk about movies said the same thing about it. And it was joyless. It's just not a fun movie. So, I don't know. Maybe you guys just didn't hear us. But you know what? All the best to you. I hope, if you're listening, I doubt it, but if you are, I really hope you guys have success. This is just one guy's opinion. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for checking this out. It's going to be in theaters for just a few days. It might get extended if enough people see it. I'm not sure. I don't know when it's going to be streaming or any of that. I just know as of the time of recording this, it's going to be in the theaters for a couple more days. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys absolutely mean the world to me. And if you would like to find out how you can help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you want to become a member over here on the channel and help support the channel that way, there's a button right down there that says join. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about another horror movie. And I'll see you guys next time.